Imagine an architect tasked with building a house, but they are given an infinite amount of land and an eternal supply of bricks. There is no deadline, there is no winter coming to test the insulation, there is no eventual decay to consider. What does that architect build? Nothing. Or rather, they build everything and therefore nothing at all. They lay a brick today, then wander off for a century. They start a wall and leave it to crumble because they have forever to fix it. Without the boundary of a lot line or the pressure of a lifespan, the act of building loses its urgency. We treat death as a mechanical failure, a glitch in the biological software that we are desperately trying to patch. We buy the serums, we track the heart rates, we Silicon Valley our way toward the dream of the post-mortal. But if we lay the concept of immortality on the clinical table and open it up, we find it is physiologically hollow. An infinite life is not a long life, it is a flat one. It is a sentence that never reaches a period, a sound that never becomes a note because it refuses to end. To understand why we matter, we have to stop looking at the life we have and start looking at the wound that makes it leak. Our finitude. If we examine the value of a human hour under a lens, we find an economic anomaly. In any other market, scarcity is the heartbeat of wealth. Gold is valuable because it is rare, but air is free because it is everywhere. Time is the only resource where the supply is strictly capped, but the expiration date is invisible. This creates a specific kind of existential tension. The philosopher Martin Heidegger described the human condition as being towards death. He argued that we aren't just things that exist. We are the only creatures who walk through the world carrying the autopsy report of our future selves. We are defined by our not yetness. When you sit across from a friend and give them an hour of your attention, you are performing a literal sacrifice. You are handing them 60 minutes that are physically stripped from a finite total. If you were immortal, that hour would be worth zero. It would be a drop of water in an infinite ocean. But because you are dying slowly, predictably, inevitably, that hour becomes a relic. The wisdom of finitude is the realization that your bank account is draining, and that is precisely why the transaction is of utmost value. If we cut deeper, we find the paradox of choice. Modern psychology obsesses over keeping doors open. We are told to maximize our potential, to be limitless. But a life lived with every door open is a life lived in drafty hallway. Finitude is the gravity that pulls us into a room. Every choice is an act of violence. To choose one career is to kill off a dozen other versions of yourself. To marry one person is to eradicate all the other lives you could have led. In an infinite life, you wouldn't have to choose. You could be a doctor for a century, a poet for the next, and a scientist for the one after that. But if you can be everything, you are effectively nothing. Simon de Beauvoir suggested that if we were infinite, our actions would have no weight. It is the wall at the end of the garden that allows the garden to have a design. Without the boundary, it isn't a landscape, it's just wilderness. There is a specific quiet ache we feel when we watch a sunset or find a child's outgrown shoe in the back of a closet. The Japanese call it mono no aware, translated as the pathos of things. It is the bittersweet realization that the beauty of an object is chemically inseparable from its inevitable destruction. When we perform an autopsy on our own most profound memories, we find they are rarely about permanence. They are about the isness of a moment that refused to stay. Think of the cherry blossom. If the petals were made of plastic and clung to the branch all year, they would eventually become invisible. We would walk past them without a second glance. We only truly see the blossom because we are aware that within a week it will be a memory. The pathos is the gentle resonance felt when the observer and the observed both acknowledge their shared transit towards non existence. It is a state of hyper presence. Our beauty isn't found in being statues that withstand the ages. It's found in being figures. We are the steam rising from a cup of tea, the specific slant of light in a kitchen on a Tuesday, the final conversation with a grandparent. These things are not beautiful despite the fact that they are dying as you experience them, but they are beautiful because of it. The wisdom of finitude is the understanding that a high resolution life requires a blurred background. Death is that blur. It is the depth of field that makes the subject in the foreground finally pop. Every story we have ever loved, every myth, film, tragedy must reach a conclusion. A story that never ends isn't a story. The ending is what provides the context for everything that came before it. It's the final brushstroke that defines the painting. It's the silence at the end of a symphony that allows the notes to finally resonate in the mind. We spend our lives running from the finish line, forgetting that the finish line is the only thing that proves we were in the race. Your life is not a problem to be solved or a duration to be extended. It is a sentence being written in real time. And a sentence only means something because it eventually reaches a period.